the science behind Ant-Man. So what is the quantum realm? In the movie Ant-Man, they describe the quantum realm as the space between realities. So what does that even mean? Well, let's talk about the reality of this table. This table is in a specific location. How do I know that? Because I can measure it. I can see where it is. I know how far away it is from me. If I go to a small enough length scale, the act of actually measuring where an object is affects the object. Now, that doesn't mean that the object isn't there, it just means that I don't know exactly where that object is. Something called a wave function gives me the probability density of where in a region of space an object might be. When you see images of Ant-Man laid over top of each other, fading in and out of existence, that's supposed to be a visual representation of this quantum mechanical realm, this idea that we don't know exactly where he is at any given moment in time. So in the movie Ant-Man, they use these things called Pym particles to shrink Scott Lang down to the size of an ant. So what's the reality of actually shrinking? Well, the matter that makes us up is composed of molecules and then atoms. These atoms are mostly empty space. If you were to bring up the nucleus of a hydrogen atom to the size of a basketball, the electron that orbits it would be 3 kilometers away. That's a lot of empty space. Now there is a particle that has a lot of the same properties as the electron called a muon, except it's 200 times bigger. What that means is if you could replace that electron with a muon, it would make the atom 200 times smaller, much more dense and compact, and effectively could shrink some kinds of matter. So, when applied to the reality of hydrogen, sure, this is a possibility. But when applied to a human being, I don't think so. After returning from the quantum realm, Scott Lang receives information from the original Wasp, Janet Van Dyne. Now this is something called quantum entanglement, which Einstein described as spooky action at a distance. What does it mean? Well, if I go back to those wave functions that I was discussing before and bring 2 of them into close proximity with each other, they can become entangled. What this means is that if something affects wave function A, then wave function B reacts appropriately. Now, I can physically separate these 2 particles now to the other side of the universe. When something happens to A, B is still affected, even if they're separated by such a distance that that communication would have to travel faster than the speed of light itself.
Spooky action at a distance indeed.
The science in the movie Ant-Man may seem like it's based in something real, and that's because it was. A quantum physicist by the name of Spiridon Mikalakis, who works at the California Institute of Technology, was brought in as an actual consultant on the film. And that's why the science is so real and not
unreal.